A chick comes out of the egg, and it's shown a predator, and it'll react. It's shown a non-predator, and it doesn't react. How did it know this coming out of the egg? They call this genetic memory. It's my personal belief that this is the reason royalty has to have sex with their sisters. Hitler got onto the tip and he started going, whoa, Atlantis, Shambhala, Inner Earth, yeah, I'm all into it. Let's build a flying saucer, guys. And they came up with the Brotherhood of the Bell, and they started to deal with breaking into other dimensions and finding anti-gravity. But this is their power, and this is what they've always done, is they've always had this high-tech knowledge that has carried them through, and they use it against us without us realizing. So there was a Greek known as Heron, and he came out and he said, hey, you guys, I got this steam engine. Nobody knows about it. It's really cool. So let's hook it up to the doors of the church, and I can make the doors open like there's a God inside, and we'll just lead everybody in. And that's what they did. They used high-tech powers to make everybody think they were magicians. And that's what they're doing today. So they have these high-tech powers, and I've even discussed some of these with the only academically accredited magician I could find, a man named Isaac Bonowitz, who was actually given a degree in magic from Berkeley. And he had described a magic machine in there 25 years before the device that I'm going to talk about was created. And that's HARP. And he designed it as a psychic machine and a magic machine, and he says, well, it needs to be a large antenna array connected to some sort of transmission device, because he wrote this before there were really computers in public homes or anything. Well, as we start to look at our high-tech space war that's going on and all the technology that's now being used against us, we're starting to realize that we're in a bit of a matrix. Okay, so we have these chemtrails going over our heads, and we're seeing grid patterns go left and right, and we're looking at it all and going, what the heck are they doing to us, you know? I'm not dying, so they're not killing me, but they're doing something, right? Well, back in the middle of the Gulf War in the Middle East, then they were announcing publicly that they were spraying barium over the terrorists to track them. So I looked into this and I found out, yeah, absolutely, barium is a tracking agent. That's what they give to Arnold Schwarzenegger in The Running Man to track him in the grid. Barium is something that's a radioactive isotope that they can put into your system, so they give you the X-ray and they can see all your insides. Well, this is one of the main ingredients of the chemtrail, is barium, and it causes flu-like symptoms and achy joints and lethargy and all those things you've been feeling and wondering why. You thought you might have the flu, but yet there was no virus. Actually, when they started the full-on chemtrail program, there was a flu-like symptom epidemic. So, well, there's no virus, the man on the news, but everybody's got flu-like symptoms. So, flu-like symptom epidemic. Oh my God, how did that happen? Well, it just happens to be the effects of barium poisoning. So there's these technologies that have been placed, and there's another one inside, and whoa, this little ball you see on, that's an oil rig that it's sitting upon, so it's not as small as you might think. And that is called an X-band radar. That left out of Texas right before Katrina hit, and everybody forgot about it. It was a big deal when they launched it because they couldn't get it through the Panama Canal. They had to take it all the way down around South America to sit up next to HARP in Alaska. And the X-band radar just happens to be the one radar that can track barium in systems. But there's another ingredient to chemtrails, and that is aluminum. Well, HARP is a radio frequency transmitter that shoots ultra-low frequency waves into the ionosphere, and they can shoot them back down onto Earth. And the first time they turned it on, 4 states lost power. Half of or portion of the HARP facility melted. They had no idea what was going to happen when they shot these ultra-low radio frequencies into the ionosphere, and they actually punched a hole through it. And went, oh, wow, that was cool. Well, so now we're sucking in all this aluminum, and the aluminum makes you a primary antenna for radio frequency waves, which are known to change weather migration patterns. Actually, the USA Today reported that Milosevic accused the US of using HARP technologies to cause earthquakes and floods. That was on the front page of the paper. This is what it does. So when you wonder why China suddenly got an earthquake when they were saying no to America, now you know what. And so they have these powers of God that we think are just happening. We think, oh yeah, the weather's gotten awful weird, hasn't it? No, they're making it weird. They're able to move the jet stream. They're able to hold storms in certain places. They're able to increase the power of storms. But this isn't bad enough, because at the time they turned this on, we were hitting cycle 23 back in Y2K. And the solar flares coming from the sun were causing superstorms. Now, as I was tracking the satellite and watching these solar flares hit the Earth or come near the Earth, and this causing superstorms, the news would come out and go, well, that was El Nino again. I know, solar flares. But for some reason, they didn't want to bring it up. They didn't want to talk about it. The sun cycle 23 was 300% what they had predicted. There were 300 more times, or 3 times more the sunspot activity than they had expected for sun cycle 23. And it just continued to increase and increase until the point I couldn't predict the weather anymore. There were just too many flares going on. These were the largest solar flares ever witnessed by mankind, but the news was saying nothing. Now this can shut down our entire power grid. It can shut us into the dark ages. If one of us hits, it'll just turn everything off. And some are predicting that there's going to be quite a burn as well. So as now, starting right now, and we're moving into 2012, this is the peak of sun cycle 24. Well, sun cycle 23 never ended. This has never happened before. There are 11-year cycles that we have been able to track throughout all this time, and sun cycle 23 just never ended. So we don't know what's going to happen as we hit the peak of 24, but it's coming. All of this goes back to Space Command. I don't know how many of you know that there's a United States Space Force. There's probably a few others. I haven't looked into it, but I'm just into this story. But Space Command, you might have seen it on Stargate 1. The movie Stargate. That's where they're at in Cheyenne Mountain, and you can see their Space Command seal on their symbols. The Space Command is who is in charge of this whole scenario. I didn't really get into Disney yet, but Werner von Braun, Nazi scientist brought over in Project Paperclip to give us the space race, and I don't think I also mentioned that every astronaut that's gone into space has worshipped at the Masonic altar. You cannot go into space without an initiation ritual. Can't do it. They did twice. They sent 2 people up that had never had initiations. Let's see, one was the Challenger, and the other was the Columbia. Well, so this man, Werner von Braun, he came out and he says, wait a minute. Now, I want to tell you guys, these extraterrestrials, they're not bad guys. They're not malevolent. They have no aggressive nature against us. But they're going to tell you they do. Now, he's a Nazi scientist, but he seemed to have a good heart. And he says, look, they're just trying to prove or push a weaponization of space. They're trying to say we need weapons in space. And they're going to tell you that these extraterrestrials are malevolent and coming after you. But not until they tell you about the Red Scare, the Cold War, terrorism, asteroids, and then aliens. Enter Barack Obama. Kind of cutting this a little bit. I was looking at this man, and I was, as I told you before, I predicted W would be railroaded into office and that he would be the last American president. Now this was the 3rd part of the program. Now they defeated the man, then they defeated the system, now they got to get rid of the Constitution. And so in order to do this, they brought this man that everyone has been dying to see get into office, and now they're going to tell everyone, oh sorry, he can't be president. So just as I had predicted, just as I had stated that the next president would not be an American, because I knew that they needed to open the Constitution and there was no way anyone was going to do this without a fight.